This must be where pies go when they die.
You're the most cold-blooded man I've ever seen.
How can you have any meat if you don't eat your pudding?
The Tommy Boyds Show.
Back and to the left. Yeah.
The show with more endurance than radiation itself.
You say either, and I say either.
Apparently official. Stand by, please.
Tommy Boyds.
Apparently official.
Have you no compassion?
Stand by, please.
Let's rehang the pictures in the gallery of life.
There is no escaping here.
Tommy Boyds.
Yeah.
I had to drag myself kicking and screaming from my own train of thought this morning. I was standing at the station and I was looking at three youngsters who were just enjoying the morning sunshine, smoking their cigarettes with their soft drink down on the pavement by their trainers. And I found myself thinking, the youth of today. And the minute that cliche reared its hideous three-horned head, I shouted in the words of Harry Enfield, "Oi, thought pattern, no!" No, because it's such an easy way, isn't it, to think about young people today. Why don't we put the boot on the other foot and look at the old of today? And why don't we judge the old of today in the same way that our young people are judged as the youth of today? Because it's always done dismissively, isn't it? The youth of the youth of today. Free call 0500 10 53 89. The aged of today have no manners. The aged of today are lazy. The aged of today are uncouth. The aged of today have bad habits. These are the things that are always said about the young of today, and it's an easy cliche, isn't it? But when you think about the burdens that are carried around by the youth of today, that were manufactured entirely and filled with bricks by the old of today, who are now looked after entirely by the youth of today and the middle-aged of today, it seems to me that the question can quite rightly be asked, what do we think of old people? For they are old people. And it's not a phrase to be frightened of. We like to say, don't we, that it's rather rude, and politically correct people remind us that it's much better to speak of senior citizens. But they are old. If the young are young, the old are old, so we can speak about old people and ask ourselves whether they have any manners. Ask ourselves whether they are lazy, whether they are uncouth, whether they have bad habits. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Shall I tell you what I think is the key difference between young people and old people today? I honestly believe, hand on heart, that the youth, the young of today, have more wisdom than the old. I've never met anybody older than me, and sadly I've never met anybody much older than me, and I really wish I could. Oh, I'd give my right arm to meet somebody much older than me who could tell me something worth knowing. Who, as a result of their endeavour, had managed to grow an orchid of truth. Who had managed to create a single peach that was a piece of wisdom, of which they could be sure, for they had seen it with their own eyes, heard it with their own ears, manufactured it with their own experience. But you won't get it. You don't get it. You just don't get any wisdom from the old of today. Whereas the young, at least, are streetwise. And streetwise is something. Because I honestly believe that if you spooled back the clock and turned Britain's coffin dodgers into 16 and 17-year-olds, in body at least, they simply wouldn't be able to cope with the enormous demands and pressures that modern civilization places on the young of today, who are quite magnificent, dare we say it, by comparison with the aged of today. Free call 0500 10 53 89. The young have to deal with dreadful problems and are going to have to deal with a dreadfully problematical world in the not-too-distant future. Problems caused by people who are now old. If the environment is in a terrible state, and the young are always being frightened because the environment is in a terrible state. The rainforests are being burned down. The air is black where it isn't a hole in the ozone layer. The seas are polluted. The earth is drenched in chemicals. But who's doing this? And who's going to have to clear it up? Who's responsible for all these world wars and all these conflicts? The generation which is now the old of today, and the young are going to have to fix it. And then there's the business of the economy. When today's old people were young, when they left school, they could walk into any field and any factory and get a job of sorts. Not so today's young. Free call 0500 10 53 89. If I had a hotline to heaven, I would ask Rod Stewart exactly what it is that he wished he'd known then, that he knows now. Because you can often ask older people, would you like to be young again? And they will say, yes, I would, knowing then what I know now, but they don't know anything. You say to them, what is that? And they look at you and make this noise. That's all you'll get. I'm sorry, Confucius did a lot better than that, but he was in China. And Buddha did a lot better than that. And Krishnamurti. And even Kyle Gilbran. All the world's wise men and women, but not one of them British. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Everyone talks about the youth of today having no manners. They're lazy. They're uncouth. They have bad habits. But this in itself is a bad habit, thinking of the youth of today like that. Surely the same applies to the aged of today. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
The Waterhole.
Cutting edge.
Tommy Boyd sucks less.
You know, I don't want to bring this up, but you've been treating a lot of people with a lot of disrespect.
Here's Vaughan calling from Norfolk. Vaughan, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon. Vaughan, are you there? Vaughan in Norfolk, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There you are.
Hello, Tommy. Thanks
Hi.
for listening. Old people, yeah? Well, they really do annoy me. Every time you walk past them in the morning and say hello, how often do they just ignore you? And that's the first thing that they would complain about to young people.
Well, I don't know if they ignore you. What they do is they make a habit, around my neck of the woods, they've got a certain sort of demand on you, which is that they say, good morning, and you have to say, good morning back.
And if you don't, they complain, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you know, how often do I say good morning and they just ignore me? Totally.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what I don't like.
Yes, Vaughan, thank you for your call. Not sure if I wouldn't ignore him, but anyway. Valerie calls from Bristol. You're on Talk Radio, Valerie.
Hello there.
Good afternoon.
I recently helped an elderly gentleman who was falling into the gutter, and he fell down and he asked for my assistance, right?
Yes?
So as I lifted him, he was a ton weight. He was about 6'2", which is quite old for an elderly person because they usually shrink, don't they? And he didn't say to me, thank you very much and don't strain your back. He just walked on afterwards. I saw him in the surgery the next day and I tripped over his feet because he had them sticking up. I said, oh, sorry. Oh, he said, well, you should look where you're going. And he realised it was me. So I don't think they're necessarily better mannered. Sometimes they're very rude, actually.
This is the size of it.
Yes, it is.
As far as they're concerned, you are there to pick them up when they fall in the gutter. That's what you're there for. You're a whippersnapper. How old are you, anyway?
I'm actually 50.
Oh, well, you're quite old yourself, really.
Well, I'm not really, because I can cycle 80 miles a day, so I'm quite young.
It's not a question of how far you can cycle. It's a question of how many years you've been on this planet.
Oh, no. It's how you feel, actually.
No.
Yes, I'm very young at heart.
Yeah, maybe, but you're still 50.
Well, all my friends are prunes, but I still look a rose.
Well, I must admit, you did sound about 16 when you came on the radio.
Oh, well, that's good. Thank you very much.
But I bet you don't look it, although you like to think that you...
Yes, well, my mind is mature. That's the main thing.
You've lived for 50 years, Valerie.
Yes.
You're a bright thing.
Yes, but I think the young people can be rather rude.
You keep your eyes open and your ears open.
Yes.
You picked up some wisdom of your own.
Yes,
in your
I think
time
if
on
the
Earth.
young are rude, it's because the old people haven't taught them anything properly.
And what would that wisdom be, Valerie?
Well, just to consider other people and not just put yourself first all the time.
Why?
Well, then we can all get on in a harmonious fashion, can't we?
For what?
Well, because it's silly. We've got to have some order in the world. If there's no order, there's chaos.
Yes, but you can create order with authority.
Well, yes, but you don't want a dictatorship, do you?
Have you thought it through?
Yes, I have, actually, many times.
Well, carry on then.
Well, I think that if we all considered each other and gave each other space, that the young people need to express themselves, that they need to respect other people. Older people need to know that young people need to let off steam. So if we could all bear that in mind, we could have a much happier world.
Valerie in Bristol. Free call 0500 1053 89. Bit chocolate box, really, dear. Matthew calls from Ramsgate. You're on Talk Radio, Matthew. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. Love your show.
Everybody talks about the youth of today, but what about the Crumblies of today?
Yeah, I get fed up of hearing about these judges and making the wrong decisions. It seems like they're so old, they just don't know how to judge in these day and age.
Oh, I don't want to talk about an issue, man.
No. Well, yeah.
I'm not interested in issues.
Well, I phoned my granddad up once to say that my wife was expecting, and he just called me a stupid fool for having so many kids, bearing in mind he was one of 13 himself.
Yes. Has any old person ever told you anything worth hearing? Apart from mind your manners. And don't run on the pavement because you might knock them over.
I seem to get on with her better. I'm only 34, but I seem to get on better with older people, though.
Are you learning things? Is your learning curve about right? When you're 70 or 80, are you going to be a wise old man with a twinkle in your eye who is able to pass on sagely advice when it's wanted, but only when it's wanted, to young people?
Hopefully. Yeah, I haven't really thought about the old age yet, but
can't think of anything.
Got to that point.
Can't think of anything you've learned yet.
Just to be good.
Be good.
Look after each other.
Look after each other. Free call 0500 1053 89. Stanley calls from Peterborough. Stanley, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your shout, Stanley.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think much of you being disrespectful to the aged. I am 82.
There we go.
I work as an engineer.
Yes.
And I still work now 5 days a week.
But in
a workshop complex of 17 workshops.
Yes, Stanley,
and
that's
the amount.
Very good. But why are your generation so rude to young people?
We're not rude to young people. I've got some of the best friends in the world.
Your generation, I'm talking about.
Pardon?
Your generation.
My generation
very
is not disrespectful
yes,
to the young, because the young are more disrespectful to the aged.
There you are, you see? You've done it. You've done it. You said you weren't, but you are disrespectful to old people, young people.
The young today are disrespectful of law and order and decency.
Here we go. Off you go, Stanley. The soapbox is yours. The young people of today don't know they're born, do they?
They do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Right.
In our days, we had a decent world.
Yeah.
Now, the world is being corrupted by the young, murder, rape, robbery, and everything you can think of.
Well, your lot did it.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you did.
We just bred them.
No, you were around at the time, Stanley. What did you do about it? The world going down the plug hole. What did you do about it?
I fought that I was in the war for 4 years.
Well, you didn't have much choice, did you?
We fought to make a decent world.
Yeah, but you didn't have much choice, did you, Stanley?
The world is now being corrupted by people like you.
People like me, Stanley?
Yeah.
In what way?
Trying to tell other people what to do.
No. How about trying to ask people to think for themselves?
Think for themselves.
Yeah, think for themselves, Stanley. What's the most original thought you've ever had?
The very few of the young today can think for themselves.
Okay, you think for yourself.
Yeah.
You've lived for 82 years.
Yeah.
You give me a bit of wisdom, Stanley, that proves that you've been around for 82 years with your eyes open and your ears open and thinking with your heart and your mind. Go ahead, boy.
I'll tell you just one thing.
Righty-ho.
There's only one way to be good and honest.
Yes.
And that's treat everybody else the same.
Yes.
Okay?
Well, what do you want to do that for?
What do you want to do that for?
Yes.
To try and make a better world, better country, never mind about the world.
I couldn't agree with you more, Stanley. So why is your generation so unkind to the young?
We're not unkind to the young.
Yes, you are. You don't make any effort to understand what life is like for them and how difficult it is to be...
I know loads of people...
Stanley, can I ask you something, Stanley? Can you not interrupt me? Otherwise we won't have a conversation. And I think it's very rude to interrupt people.
Yeah.
And I think you should listen to what I have got to say.
Yeah.
Because, Stanley, age doesn't matter. I might know something that you don't. And I might be able to teach you something you don't know.
Yeah?
You don't know that, do you?
And I might know something that you don't know, and I might be able to teach you a lot.
Well, let's have a bet then, shall we, Stanley? I bet you I can tell you something you don't know.
Yeah?
And you tell me something that I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Here's something you don't know, Stanley.
Yeah?
It is harder to be a young person in 1998 than it was to be a young person in 1908.
Why?
Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
No. Right, now you tell me something that I didn't know, Stanley, and remember, you're twice as old as I am.
Yeah? In 1908?
No, you tell me a bit of wisdom of yours.
Bit of wisdom?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And remember, I've got to not know it.
You've got to not know it.
That's the deal, Stanboy.
Yeah?
Yep.
In 1908, we didn't have babies at 12 years old.
Yes, you did.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you did.
No way.
Yes, you did.
No way, because there was a law against it and the law was upheld.
In 1908, do you know what percentage of Scottish women were pregnant when they married?
Women, you're talking about one lot of Scottish people now. What was it, a tribe up in Scotland in them days?
Yeah. You're drifting a bit, Stanley.
No, I'm not drifting.
Yes, you are.
It's you drifting.
No, you're drifting. You just made some stuff up about nobody having children when they were 12 in 1908. Stanley, I want you to give me a piece of wisdom, not a piece of acidic prejudice.
Look,
give me a piece of wisdom. Go ahead.
I can't talk to a clock what won't admit nothing. Bye-bye.
He's off now. Go on, slam the phone down. And there you got it in one, and that is the problem. In one. There you have it. Thank you, Stanley. As articulate as one likes to think one might be one day, one could never illustrate so profound a point so lucidly as Stanley did against his generation. Free call 0500 1053 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. We all of us judge so easily the youth of today. This is what we're talking about between now and 3 o'clock. But supposing we use the same criteria to judge the elderly of today. Are they polite? Do they have manners? Are they lazy, or do they get paid to sit around all day and do nothing? Are they couth? Have they picked up bad habits? Free call 0500 1053 89. Vic calls from Surrey. You're on Talk Radio. Vic, good afternoon.
Oh, hello, Tommy.
Vic.
Yeah, I think some old people seem to try to make themselves seem even older than they are as a way of trying to get sympathy over and get control over people. They sort of, do you know what I mean? Like you see these old boys, or they think they're old boys, and they walk, they have a stick perhaps, and they have these beige-coloured coats even in the summer, and with a silly cloth cap. You talk to them and they say, oh, I'm 71. And you think, well, Jimmy Saville's 71. He runs marathons. I mean, what... You know, and they're sort of trying to act like they're about 90.
Well, one minute they don't want to tell you their age in case you realise how old they are, and you dismiss them, and the next minute they use their age as a credential. They can't blind you with wisdom, but they will tell you that what they're about to say has to be believed or at least respected because they're 87.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the ones that are like even younger than that. They sort of, and they smell of TCP and they wear all these, as I say, beige overcoats and that sort of thing. I mean, why can't they be young for that? I mean, some old people are, as you know. I mean, like, you know, Reagan was president at 78, wasn't there? And there's different people writing books and the sculptors and that type of thing. It's
I think part of what we're talking about this afternoon is the way we judge old people so quickly, with such hurry. We rush to judge, we rush to condemn because they're sitting around apparently doing nothing. My point is, I noticed this morning a knot of youngsters who were just sitting in the sun smoking cigarettes. They're about 16. And so naturally I found myself condemning them as a force of habit. You know, because that's what everybody does. And then I found myself wondering whether if we were to do the same thing with your generation, Vic, how would your generation come out of such judgment? Yeah, what age are you?
Oh, I'm mid to late 40s.
Mid to late 40s?
So I'm halfway between 20 and 74.
Dreadful lot, you lot,
I can look at both ends and say, well, I'm about as far from being old or young as you can get.
Well, never mind about the youth of today, Vic. What about the middle-aged of today?
The middle-aged?
No.
What, the people that run the country?
You're a terrible lot, you lot.
I'm the same age as Gordon Brown.
There, terrible lot, you lot. Hey?
But when you're middle-aged, you can't pretend to be more middle-aged than you are, can you?
No, I suppose not.
That is one thing.
The only thing I'll say about young people and old people is that they seem, both of those generations seem a bit less materialistic. Your generation is very materialistic at the moment, aren't they, Vic?
Well, I don't think I am. I know what you mean, though.
It's all about houses, it's all about cars, it's all about insurance, it's all about careers, it's all about salary, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Terrible lot, aren't you?
That old boy you had on, Stanley, he's talking about how bad things are compared with what they were years ago.
Yes.
And did he mention something about he fought, or did he say... Oh, perhaps I misheard what he said, but...
He said he fought for 4 years in the Second World War.
Yeah, they seem to think fighting is a minor thing compared with rape and robbery and all that. As if, you know, just dropping bombs on people, that's all good, clean fun.
You didn't have much truck with what Stanley was saying?
Well, he was a game old boy, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't. He didn't.
He was 82.
Yep, so what?
And he's still working 5 days a week.
Well, so he says.
Yes, but there's, you know, some people are 68 sitting around in outpatients all the time, aren't there?
Yes. Well, if he was still working, what's he doing this afternoon then?
Oh, well.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, thanks for your call. Let's talk to Alice, who's calling from the New Forest. Alice.
Hello, Tommy. You say that old people are rude, right? That was your statement. Old people are rude? Well, judging by what you said to Stanley, you must be 150. Because I have never heard anyone so rude, so arrogant, so ignorant. And I'll tell you something you don't know. You don't know how to pronounce Lao-Tzu. You don't know how to pronounce Taoism. You didn't know even the name of the Japanese stock market. You're so smart that you must be about 3 years old. But you're so ignorant, nasty, rude, and just egotistical.
I'll bet she's 60-something.
Well, obviously, I told your researcher that.
What age are you?
So you know that. I'm over 60.
Right.
But
do you want me to treat you with proper respect, or do you want me to patronise you because you're old?
I don't care why you do.
Well, you should do. Otherwise, you might just as well clear off. Are we either going to have a conversation or not?
Well, I don't think that you're able to have a conversation. What was this business about you
Well,
rounding
let's try,
on
shall we? I
Stanley?
just asked you a question. Do you want me to treat you with proper respect, or do you want me to patronise you because you're old?
Well, you seem to patronize everyone.
I'm
on
asking
your show.
you what you prefer.
I prefer to be treated as an equal.
Exactly. In that case, I'm not going to patronise you just because you're old. And I didn't patronise Stanley, even though he's got used to being patronised over the last 20 or 30 years.
No, he hasn't.
I treated Stanley with proper respect. I treated him as an individual. I listened to the merit of his arguments, and I met the merits of his argument, regardless of whether or not he was 82 or 12. That's how everybody wants to be treated. Equally, whether they're disabled, whatever colour they are, and whatever age they are, okay?
Tommy, you've had your little rant. Now, can I tell you something?
No, you can respond to what I just said. That's what's called conversation.
What was what you said? Okay? That was your thing.
Did you listen to what I said?
I think I did, but you change your mind so often.
Well, respond to what I just said.
Well, say it again.
Gee, you didn't listen to a word of it, did you? You didn't listen to a word of it, did you? You weren't listening, were you?
Go on.
You weren't listening the first time, were you?
Go on.
What do you mean, go on?
You change your mind so often, and you change your speech so often. So repeat your question if you would indulge an elderly person.
because there are people listening who were listening, and therefore I'm not going to offend them by repeating myself.
You offend everybody. That's the name of your game.
Just trying to wake a few people up, missus.
Let me tell you something that you obviously already do know, that if you'd had as many jobs as you say you've had, that you'd be 250.
What makes you think that?
Because you couldn't possibly have held down as many jobs as you say you have.
Just because you've led an empty life, Alice, it doesn't mean that everybody else has.
I have led a very active life.
Well, how many jobs have you had then?
How many jobs have I had? More than you could count.
Why do you repeat the question if you heard it in the first place?
Because you're too old to understand it unless it's repeated to you.
Who is?
You are.
I am?
Yes.
I have to hear my own question.
According to your own criteria.
I have to hear my own question repeated before I remember what it was?
No, it was my question.
No, I asked you how many jobs you've had.
I know you did.
And you said, how many jobs have I had? Stalling for time. Just answer the question.
No,
how many jobs have you had?
I've had so many I can't even count them.
Yeah.
But still, I know how to pronounce Lao-Tzu, which you don't.
Yeah.
and I know how to pronounce Taoism, which you still continue to call Taoism. You're not too smart, are you, really, when it comes down to it?
You're just plain spiteful with no substance.
Also, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah?
I have had a very successful, among other careers, I have had a very successful talk show in America.
Right.
And you wouldn't hold even 5 minutes audience in America.
Go ahead, tell me something
you're so
wise.
Boring.
Yeah, well, you lot are so shallow.
Well, maybe according to you, but we don't think we are.
Cool, that was a killer. Wow, I'd never have phoned you. You'd have murdered me with that kind of stuff. We don't think
you know,
so.
You're so silly because you think...
Nah, we're the coming force, man. American talk radio's on the way out. It's rubbish. It's shallow. It's weak. The talk radio of the 21st century deals in substance as well as character assassination, because that's all you can do. And if you listen to this show for a little bit longer, Alice, for the very first time in your life, you might be spoon-fed some wisdom, because you ain't going to be able to feed yourself.
From Tommy Boyd.
You got it.
Oh, what a laugh. All the wisdom in your little finger could fit into nothing.
Well, if I'm in charge of the cutlery, missus, it's going to be a runcible spoon.
Oh, my God.
Meaning you don't know what a runcible spoon is?
Oh, yes, I do know what a runcible spoon is.
What is it?
It's a long-handled spoon that you feed the devil with.
Good girl.
Well,
For someone who knows so much, you have so little wisdom.
I have ample wisdom.
Then give me a piece now.
Give you a piece now.
Yes.
I'm repeating myself.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yes, your own.
What? My own.
That you've learned in 60 years on this planet.
I've learned that the people who make up this planet are by and large quite good. Then we have the exception like Tommy Boyd.
There you go, you see. Well, that's California for you, isn't it? That's it. That's wisdom. The people who make up the planet are by and large quite good. That's wisdom. Come on, then, come on. If you're over 55, okay, if you lived in another country, you would be revered. You would be revered because you are old and wise. If you want to be revered, apart from demanding it because you've been round the block 55 times, earn it. With a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of sagely advice or behaviour for people who aren't yet old. And then, if you must, you can condemn the young of today for having no manners or being lazy or being uncouth or having bad habits. If you must. Because it is a good sport. I accept that. It is a good sport. They are so cocky. Carl calls from London. You're on Talk Radio. Carl, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. A couple of quotes first, if I may. Youth is a wonderful thing. It's a shame it has to be wasted on young people. Sure. And the tragedy of growing old is that you don't, you know. And that was Oscar Wilde. And that's the way I feel like, you know. I'm in my 60s, but a young man has just come to me this morning, and he's doing a project at college, and he asked if I could be his subject, if he could come and see me on Friday for an interview, you know. And I was chuffed, of course, like, you know, to be told this by a young man. And so you don't have to be old and dislike young people because you are old, you know. I like young people, go on with young people. I've got the 3 Oasis albums, you know, my friends are in their 20s and even in their teens, and youngsters like me, and I like them. I'm Santa Claus. I look over 70, although I'm in my 60s. I've got that sort of ancient look, and I actually play Santa Claus in the stores.
But Carl, we young people, we don't want you to join in.
No, well, it's too bad, mate, because I'm not going to get old just to please you.
We want you to get old and wise.
No, I'm wise without being old, you know?
Then act wise.
Why? What do you mean by acting wise? Being happy. You see, this is one of the things I've learned in life, that being successful and being happy are not the same thing.
Happiness is no good.
Well, it is to me.
Happiness.
I'll settle for happiness.
Happiness is fleeting.
Well, no, it's not. It's happy. Happiness can be deep-rooted.
No,
you know?
sir.
Happiness can be deep-rooted, and happiness can be earned by suffering.
You're talking about contentment, not happiness. You're talking about contentment.
Well, okay, that's a matter of semantics. But
No, it's a matter of using the right words.
Sorry?
It's a matter of using the right words.
Well, no, my contentment can go up to happiness and down to sleepiness, you know. But all in all, considering I'm what you might call a failure, in that I was a failed singer, a failed writer, a failed poet, a failed politician. I'm, you know, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, an ex-drug addict, an ex-vagrant, an ex-con. and a failure at school, failed the 11 plus, you know. My life has been a string of failures.
Good. Now, you've been around the block many, many times. You've seen many things. You've had a vivid life.
Yeah, well.
A vivid life, a very real life.
Yeah.
Not for you, the cotton wool of a semi in suburbia.
Well, it wasn't a matter of choice,
and a simple
you know?
career, but nevertheless, you've seen things. You've tasted life.
Yeah,
bittersweet at times, of course. But you were watching and listening and thinking and wondering about yourself and the universe all the while through these experiences, Carl. And I come to you now, an empty 14-year-old about to embark on a journey, the length of the one that you've had so far.
Yeah.
And you only get a moment to give me one gentle piece of guidance. What would it be?
You can only watch one telly, listen to one stereo, sleep in one bed, and eat at the most 3 meals a day. The rest is bullshit.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you very much.
Cheerio, Tommy.
Free call 0500 10 53 89. What did that mean? What did that mean? What did that mean? I suppose he means lower your horizons. But with a view to what? Free call 0500 10 53 89. Marie calls from Manchester.
Hiya.
You're on Talk Radio.
Hello?
We're talking about the aged of today.
Yeah, we are. We are talking about them, and they're deceitful, and they think the world owes them a living.
I see.
I see. I've worked with them for years, and I've been took in by them for years until I've realised what they are. And they are deceitful. They use you to get what they can out of you. They talk about you behind your back. They've got no manners. And they are not an example for the young today.
Now, is this a personal vendetta, or are you merely doing what we decided at the start of the programme to do, which is to judge them in the same way that they judge the youth of today?
I suppose in a way I feel angry, and this is one way of expressing it, but no, I do agree with you that they're not giving the young a chance today at all.
It's very hard being a young person today.
Yeah, I see my son, he's 15, and he has to work really hard to get anywhere, and he knows at the end of it, maybe there isn't any prospect of a job. See, the old people, they didn't have that problem, did they? Even I didn't have that problem. You know, I could walk into a job when I left school. I could walk into a job the following day. The children of these, you know, today, they don't have that, do they?
Young people today are taught in schools that the world is in a terrible place. They turn on the television and they're reminded over and over again that the world is full of violence and greed and doom and disaster, and the sun's going to explode eventually.
That's right.
And they look at the people who are responsible for the world being in the state that it is, and they are instructed to respect them.
Yeah.
Explain.
You know, I mean, and that American woman, she just talks a load of crap. It's like all Yanks. It's all bigger and better over there. That's just rubbish. Just let her look at her country and see what a mess it's in compared to ours. She was just talking a load of crap.
Marie in Manchester, free call 0500 10 53 89. We're talking about the aged of today in the same way that the aged of today talk about the youth of today. The number's free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
53 1089 AM. Talk Radio.
And Andrew calls from London. Andrew, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. I'd like to make a couple of points on this. I mean, how can we judge middle-aged radio presenters was my immediate thought, but I thought, well, I don't want to be unfair on you. You've got a job to do. But I think really you've got to be prepared to nibble a little bit the hand that feeds you.
You go right ahead and judge me, Andrew. I'm listening.
Well, it's all about nibbling a little bit of the hand that feeds you so that something a bit better grows out of it. I don't want you to bite it off, but, you know, everyone who is angry in this country at the moment, and probably elsewhere, is largely because they're being lied to by the media so often. And
oh, go ahead and judge me.
I don't have to, Tom.
Well, you said it was your first thought. I'd be very interested to hear your judgment.
Well, that was my initial thought, because you know, I know you've got this sort of confrontational style.
Now, go ahead and judge me then.
Well, if I was to judge
what's happening in this hour of radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would say that you set up a controversial argument, which is your job, You give people a fair crack of the whip, but I think that you tend to close them out.
We're talking about wisdom here, Andrew. Is it going to bother to raise its head in this conversation, or is it not something you are bothered about?
That's a largely unknown, isn't it? Because who knows what it is? I mean, has anyone ever defined it? You do.
Yes, plenty of people have. It's just that it's not it has no currency in this country.
That's subjective, isn't it?
No, it's a fact. No, it isn't. Don't be stupid, man.
Well, you're proving my point, aren't you?
No, I'm asking you whether you're bothered about wisdom, because that's what we're talking about in this hour.
Well, for instance, the old Scots guy who talked about 1 bed, 3 meals a day, etc., he was talking about simplifying your life, really. And if you get distracted so often by all kinds of different influences, especially some of them are highly unsound, the sources are very, very dubious, and this is what's happening.
You're a very shallow man.
Well, that's your programme, Tom. I'm on your programme. That's why I'm shallow.
We're trying to educate you.
You are?
Yes.
Well, I find that
This is indeed a programme aimed at unsettling shallow people like you.
Well, I would say that I'm on a shallow programme, and that's why I'm being shallow. Now, if you've got...
Then go ahead and be deep.
Well, there you are. That's a very shallow statement, isn't it? What do you want me to come out with, platitudes?
No, be deep if you can, if you know what it means, if you know where it is.
Well, it's not at all... You can't necessarily talk deep. It's what you do. It's everything you are. It's not just one statement on one radio programme on one afternoon, is it? You're showing how shallow you are.
You can't do it, can you?
Neither can you, Tom.
I could do if I wanted to.
No, you're saying na. That's what you're saying, aren't
you?
There's
a depth in the whole hour that you haven't spotted.
Is there?
Yeah.
Well... In that case, I'm on here because I have spotted it.
We sages,
Otherwise,
we gurus, we deal, Andrew, in parable.
Yeah, well, I'm on here because I have spotted something.
No,
but on the other hand,
you're on here because you have an obsession.
If you're censoring me because you don't particularly like an individual's opinion, then...
I'm not censoring you, I'm just trying to help you be interesting.
Well, I'm not necessarily interesting any more than you are at any one time, but I'm just making a few observations. Now,
You
if you
haven't
don't like
made any yet.
Sorry?
You haven't made any yet about middle-aged radio presentation.
No, I said that was my initial thought.
Why did you say that?
Well, it just occurred to me that you're saying...
But plenty of things occur to one without one saying it. You felt that it was something to put before a radio audience. Why?
You jumped on that old man who couldn't somehow get to his point, and then you cut him off, or he closed he put the phone down, or whatever.
Just treating him as an equal, Andrew.
Yeah, but I'm saying that largely...
You would have patronised him, wouldn't you? You would have said, oh,
no.
Hello there.
No, I would have just said, well, he's got a viewpoint. But
Are you looking forward to Countdown when it comes on?
It takes more than 1 hour on one radio station to really summarise what we're talking about. I mean, if
No, it doesn't.
Well,
no, it doesn't.
It's
No, it
discriminatory,
doesn't.
isn't it?
No,
Tom?
it
It's
doesn't.
discriminatory.
No, it simply doesn't.
You've set up a discriminatory argument saying...
It simply doesn't.
Let's talk about the old...
No, I haven't. I have not set up an argument at all. I have offered people like you a challenge to see whether you are able to judge the aged of today in the same way that you judge the youth of today.
I don't believe the aged are a category to be judged. That's an inhuman statement. That's a fascist statement. Why the aged? Who are the aged?
You and everybody older than you.
Well, there you are. You've made a category, so you're a fascist. I don't believe in category. You see, it's discriminatory. It's ageist.
Well, describing people as a fascist is equally a generalisation, isn't it?
It could be, yes, but I mean, one has to start somewhere. I'm not saying you're a Hitler fascist.
Where you have to start if you're going to have a conversation, all right, is not by examining everything that is put before you, because that is more comfortable than answering some hard questions. And what you should... Can I finish my point? And you should have to listen to this bit, because I will ask questions, okay? Because you haven't listened to anything else I've said. You've been mentally rehearsing what you're going to say as soon as there's a pause.
Much as you have.
No, I listen to you, because I can do that. That's why I'm here and you're at home.
I'm listening, Tom.
Good. Okay. All right. You're listening carefully.
Yes.
For the first time in this conversation.
Right.
Good. If you can judge this show properly, then you are entitled to judge the youth of today, and your judgment would be valid. And you would be entitled to judge the aged of today, and your judgment would be valid. But the question is, and you should answer it now, what is your judgment of this show?
It's all in the opening segment, where your introduction, the marvellous hello, Mr. Boyd, we bring you nothing but iniquity, etc.
No, darling, let me stop you again. This show, this one today.
No, that is your package, Tom.
No,
That's-
you
that's
can't
what
do it,
says.
Andrew, and you've got to go now because you're not up to this. Can I ask a favour of you? Just one small
Tom,
thing.
don't ever ask me to come on your show again.
Ever
I
phone
know.
again.
Yeah, I
Don't
know.
ever phone again. No,
I've
you
heard
have
it.
phoned before,
Tom,
and I have asked you not to
Tom,
phone,
Tom.
and I want you to promise me that you'll never phone me. I want you to promise me.
Tom.
Promise me that you will hurl yourself from a tall building rather than ever phone me again. Promise me that,
There's
please.
there's a good argument
Please.
for turning off.
Please. Turn me off. You turn me off. Don't
No.
ever listen to me again. I
No.
don't want you to listen to me again.
I can do. This is a free
I don't want the thought that I'm in
Tommy,
your head.
This is a free country.
You're a terrible man.
No.
You're an awful man.
Listen, you are judgmental.
You're hopeless.
You are mental
You're
and
a lost
judgmental.
cause.
No, I'm afraid
You're
can't
living a
hack it,
worthless
Tom.
life.
You can't hack it,
If you
Tom.
live to be 142, Andrew, you still will know nothing.
All you do is present an argument and get paid for it.
Yeah, a lot of money, and you don't.
No,
so?
well, there you are. That's money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, mate,
Right,
and
now,
I've got it, and you
enough.
haven't.
Tom, you'll never have enough, will you, Tom?
No, I won't.
Well, there you are. That's your problem.
But I'll have more than you.
If you are just a money machine, what else are you? If you're just a money machine.
Talented.
Well, listen, the talent you're born with, right, don't boast about it, Tom. You are a talented money machine. Now, where's the
He said it, and I think we'll leave on that note. Andrew, thank you for your call. I am a talented money machine. But that's not the point. The point is this. If we were to judge the aged of today, judge them, if we were to judge them the way they judge the youth of today, what would we end up thinking? Who's got no manners? Who's lazy? Who's uncouth? Who's got bad habits? It's uncomfortable, but it's fair. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
That man loves you. That man cares for you.
Tommy Boyd Show.
Get real with the people on the dance floor.
Talk Radio.
Free call 0500 10 53 89.
Our next caller is Rachel, who calls from Christchurch. Rachel, you're on Talk Radio. Thank you for calling.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm agreeing with you again.
There.
Yes. I worked in the what was the DHSS. I am what you might call aged, but I don't because I've never matured. I'm still terribly young.
I can tell.
And anyway, when people came in, we were on the front line, at the desk, meeting people coming into the DHSS. And really, the older people were terribly difficult to deal with. They were so rude. They blamed us for things that the government had brought in. We were simply carrying out what the government said we had to do. And they were dreadfully rude. And far more, there were some rude youngsters, but not in the same proportion.
No.
They really were. And so I'm agreeing with you.
I'm very glad
But
that you did.
I must say, you mustn't lump everybody together. There's some very nice, lovely old people.
Yeah,
and
no,
some
nobody's
very...
doubting that. Surely that goes without saying,
Yeah,
Rachel.
yeah,
Surely
yeah.
that goes... I would hope that goes without saying. I
It
get
does,
very
yes.
tired of people.
Yeah.
If you say something like, South Americans are very talented with the ball at football, somebody will ring up and rather than argue the point, they'll actually say that it's a generalisation. Well, of course it's a generalisation. You have to make them all the time. Tell me something that's not a generalisation.
That's right.
If I tell you that the time now is about 7 minutes to 3, that's a generalisation. You know? So what have you got when somebody comes back and tells you that? You've got no conversation, no argument.
No.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Neil calls from West Sussex. You're on Talk Radio. Neil.
Hello, Tommy.
Sir.
I was just letting you know of an incident that happened to me a couple of years ago. I had an operation, carpal tunnel on the hand, and I was just taking my dog for a walk near where I lived, and this old boy just stopped me, and he said to me, you lazy bastards, whatever.
Yes.
You know, youth of today, you can't even bother to work and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I give him a bit of a mouthful without sort of lowering the tone, and just brought out my arm.
Yes. To which he replied...
He walked off?
Yes.
I mean, so I'm not putting all old age pensioners in that
No, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. This was one individual, but we suspect that it is not an uncommon attitude.
Well, that's quite correct, yeah.
What is it? Do you think they're jealous because you're going to live longer than they are? Yeah.
I suppose it could be.
Could be, couldn't it?
Yeah,
That's not
we've
very
got
wise,
things
is
to
it?
look forward to, new inventions, everything else.
Yes, that's not very wise, is it?
No.
No. Neil, I hope your hand gets better. Adam calls from London. You're on Talk Radio. Adam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy. Do you remember a programme called Logan's Run?
Excellent show.
Well, we should make that reality, and once you hit 45, that's it. Done, finished, done.
Over and done with.
Over and done with.
Why does it have to be...
No more whinging, just 45, gone.
Why does it have... What age are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, well, the only fly in the ointment, of course, is that you're telling this to somebody who is...
45.
Hello.
Well, Tommy, then that makes room for other presenters. You're gone, we bring on the next batch.
But the youngsters coming through aren't good enough. We see them every day.
You have to give them a chance, Johnny. You have to give them a chance.
You should hear their tapes. They're rubbish.
They're not. That's what we should make today. That 45.
No, that's the trouble with the young people of today.
They've got no more whinging about the youngsters because everyone will be young.
The young people of today have got no originality. They've got no spark. They've got no vigour, no enthusiasm, no energy. There's no application.
No,
what am I saying?
Once you hit 45, you become a liability on society. You don't do anything for society except moan about the way society is, the way you have made society. And it's up to the young people today to actually go forward and change society for the better.
The only part of society that I have made, Adam, is to fight to create a vehicle whereby people like you can reach a national radio audience. Now, you can't complain...
You've done your job.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.